out there feels this sense of sadness at what is happening currently in our country. The democracy that we have today, a lot of people died for it. And it is only fair that we safeguard our democracy and ensure that in everything that is done, that the rule of law is sacrosanct and processes are followed. We look at what is happening now in Rivers State. Let's first of all look at what Rivers State is all about. It's a critical economic hub. It contributes about 25% of the crude oil that keeps this nation going. And also we know the political strength that it has. Nyesom Wike served as the governor of Rivers State from 2015 to 2023. And I'm sure Nigerians are very much familiar with the way he governed his state. And nobody could say anything about what he was doing and how he did it. And he was one of those who stated categorically that godfatherism does not have a place in the Nigerian politics. And then he groomed someone to take over from him. And that's why we have Governor Siminalayi Fubara coming in as his successor. May 29, 2023, Governor Fubara was sworn in as the governor of Rivers State. And initially, everything was going rosy amongst them. Then later, we started hearing of the rift that is going on. As usual, Nigerians will say, okay, and now them, Godfather, Godson, and all of that. But one of the things that we have to understand is that precedents are set with certain things. And there are issues that you might feel that it's none of your business, but it's actually your business, because at the end of the day, when these precedents are set, they can be used on a larger scale that affects everyone. By late 2023, we saw the defection that happened in the assembly, where there was a split, and some assembly members defected. They defected, and you now had a pro-Wike and a pro-Fubara. In a democracy, where they're supposed to be working for the people, giving them good governance, accountability, and transparency, that should worry every one of us. We talk about Nigeria, where it's going to. And we have to understand that if we do not fix politics, if we say it's none of our business, then the things that are happening in Nigeria today will continue to happen, where some few citizens who are supposedly elected into office to serve the people begin to serve only their self-interest. And as we came down to early 2025, we saw the impeachment threats that were going on. And also, remarks from elders who should know better, siding. A lot of people we've seen in the news where people have spoken about the fact that there is a rift between Fubara and Wike, and that Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu had gone on to call them together and make them to how do I put it now? To resolve the issues, but the issues weren't resolved. But one of the things, and for those of them who are supporting the state of emergency that has been put on, and the fact that a duly elected governor was taken away and saying that, oh, he had to come in to do something. If you say there are two parties in a crisis and they haven't stopped, why is it that one is the one that is being punished? But anyway, that's a question we need to ponder for the elders that are coming out to speak on this. Coming back to what we've seen in the last a few days, we've seen the impeachment threats being made. We also saw the State House of Assembly, coming out to put the impeachment notice to the governor. And then the next thing, there were pipeline vandalization that had happened. And one of the things that people have come to say is to say that the Fubara administration hasn't done well to protect those pipelines. And I think we need to go back to our Constitution and find out, when it comes to the protection of lives and properties, on whom is it invested? Is it a governor? Or is it the commander-in-chief? And who should take responsibility for protecting not only lives, but also properties of our nation? March 18, 2025, you saw the declaration that came in of a state of emergency in Rivers State. And Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu cited disturbing incidents of vandalization of pipelines by some militants without the governor taking any action to curtail them. The governor, what action is he supposed to take to curtail them? The commander-in-chief, whoever sits as and acts as the commander-in-chief, is the one that is supposed to ensure that lives and properties are protected. And if we said the issue of vandalization, it's a reason why there will be a state of emergency imposed on a state in Nigeria, then the question I will ask also, is there any state in Nigeria that wouldn't have a state of emergency if this is what now leads to a state of emergency? But we have lawyers that are going to look at the Section 305 and go on that particular one. But beyond that is the strange occurrence in a democracy where a duly elected governor is dismissed, stripped of his powers, given to him by the people of his state. And you have a sole administrator being imposed on the state. In a democracy, remember, the democracy that a lot of people fought for and some died for us to have. That is not a democracy. And then the next line where people, Nigerians and citizens, were hopeful that, this rascality, this constitutional rascality that has happened, that it was going to be checked. It's where we have the legislative arm of government. The National Assembly was supposed to be that other resort of the citizens. They're supposed to be the protectors of our democracy. But unfortunately, March 20, 2025, it didn't prove to be so. The National Assembly, that is supposed to be the mouthpiece and the voices of the people, decided that it was not going to be that. The Senate, 109 members of them, or should we say 108, since they decided that they were going to suspend someone whom they did not elect. And House of Representatives, 360 members, convened. But the question is, did they actually convene? Was there a head count? Do we know whether the numbers that were said to be were actually the numbers that were said to be there? Because we needed a 2/3 for this to even be approved. Even what the Constitution had agreed, talk less of the part that is unconstitutional. And then they declared this, they approved the emergency declaration. But instead of going through the process, because processes are very important, we must understand that. Processes are very important at every time. The process has to be followed, the rule of law has to be followed. The 2/3, we needed to have head count. The people, the senators, the lawmakers who are supporting this ought to append their signature. What are they afraid of? Why are we having a vote voice in something that is as important as this? First of all, we had the House of Representatives using a voice vote, bypassing the constitutionally mandated recorded counts to verify the 2/3 threshold. And then, of course, you've had the Senate doing the same thing. Ladies and gentlemen, fellow citizens, we must understand that under a democracy, the Constitution is sacrosanct, and the Constitution must be followed the way it is. Thank you. Just to also add for the gentleman who asked the question, there's something called Stockholm Syndrome. We've seen situations whereby people are kidnapped and they come out to actually support their kidnappers. It doesn't mean that that makes kidnapping right. And so what we're talking about here is about the Constitution. It's not about our likes or dislikes or any individual. This is the nation, and every country is guided by its constitution. If we begin to allow the constitution to be misused and not to be followed, then we are opening room for anarchy to happen. Having said that, also is to also say to the gentleman that asked the question, when Mr. Bola Ahmed Tinubu was calling for a mediation, he didn't ask whether there was a judgment out there. He called two people, right, which was Governor Fubara and also his minister, Nyesom Wike. to the conversation. And so if there's anything that there was no resolution, you can't just punish one person. And this is someone that he has the constitutional right for the office that he's currently, occupying, even if to me, he's not actually supposed to occupy the office. That's a story for another day, to be able to sack the minister of FCT or any minister that he appointed without asking anybody. And then you go ahead to do what you do not have the constitutional right to do. That is a major problem, and that's what we're talking about. Thank you.